Hey, everybody, it's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. Thanks for being with me. Recently, I was moderating a panel at the Future Food Tech Summit, and it was a panel on unlikely partnerships. The conversation was so engaging, I thought I'm going to have to bring this to the Plant-Based Business Hour. So let me bring on my guest today. I have the Global Vice President of Plant-Based Proteins for the Ingredion Company, Mike Natale. Thanks for being with me.
Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And then I have the fabulous co-founder and CEO of the NotCo company, Matias Muchnick. Matias, thanks for being with me too.
Thanks, Elysabeth, for the invitation, and great to be with Mike again here.
Okay, so we are going to set this up. I first want to talk to Matias and understand all about NotCo. Of course, NotCo is in headlines all the time about fantastic raises and Jeff Bezos and their incredible AI. Then we're going to talk to Mike and learn more about Ingredion, this company that is across the globe, 115 years old, really the polar opposite of NotCo, and how the two of you have come together for an unlikely partnership. But first, let's start with NotCo. So I want to set the stage, and then Matias, you can take it from there. So you are on your Series C, your last raise. You raised $85 million. Jeff Bezos is an investor. You have this unique approach to plant-based products. That's products plural on the meat and on the dairy side. You have Guiseppe, the AI guru, if you will, the program that you have written to look at the entire plant-based kingdom, and from that pull information that Guiseppe can use to create meat alternatives from plants. Tell me, why did you think Guiseppe would work?
That's a great question. I mean, when we looked at the food R&D, more in the food system, right? We created a food system that became the common denominator to every major environmental evil known to humankind: land use, water scarcity, ocean depletion, you name it. And then from the other side, it was a very aggressive way of producing food. I mean, if you think about the food system, it's just the ability to produce the nutrition that this global, population needs, right? And we're doing that very inefficiently. And when you looked up kind of like what really drove us to get there, you saw that the food space has been operating with an obsolete technology for the last 50 years, right? When you get into a food facility, R&D looked like three guys in a lab coat in an experimental kitchen, doing trial and error and reading research papers of 1980s on how to apply soy to replace animal-based ingredients. That was it. So the use of AI kind of like came into my mind when I said, okay, we're in 2020. We're in 2017 when we started all this. And we're not using none of the AI capabilities to actually explore this world of plants that has been really, really undermined, right? There's more than 300,000 species of plants in the world, and we have no idea what 99% of them can do, right? But is it going to be human beings? Is it going to be a bunch of scientists? I said, no, let's use, super powerful AI to really search in that world what combination can create the taste of milk, the texture of meat, the flavor of, cheese. Like what can we do in data to actually bring a better, industry to the world, both sustainable, with a significant better CO2 emission, overall, but also super tasty. That it's food. We're humans. We love food, and we don't want to replace the food that we love to eat. We want to replace the way we make the food that we love to eat. And there's, it's very an unfair statement to say that the technology for NotCo does, all of the difference. We have definitely a bunch of scientists and a group of people and chefs and AI and, that are doing such an amazing job of turning maybe a concept on the kitchen to an industrial scale, 400 tons per day, product, right? That's NotCo, and that's why we are pursuing AI and the interaction with human beings to create better products for consumers.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. That's so fascinating. I'll just pull a couple tidbits there. You talk about the environmental imprint, and from your website, I believe I saw that it's 74% less land, 92% less water, and 74% 100% less greenhouse gas emissions. So the impact on the planet is undeniable. But you're reminding me of, I interviewed Ethan Brown, Beyond Meat, for NPR, which is a radio network here in the United States. And he took me through the lab in California, and I was amazed to find that they were going to things like parsley to replicate the aroma of pork chops. So when people say to me, oh my gosh, you're plant-based, you must have such a limited diet, I think like, oh no, I remember when I used to eat meat, it was ham and cheese sandwiches all the time. Actually, the variety is in the plant kingdom. What is left to explore and discover is in the plant kingdom. So I love that Guiseppe, your AI, is hard at work putting things like pineapple, if I've got that right, into your milk. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pineapple, cabbage, chicory root. The thing is that it's like, again, the limit is created by ourselves, and human minds are really, really biased. We are created biased, right? And so whenever you have a super powered, AI system, even though it can get biased with the feedback and the training that you give it back, you try to understand the underlying patterns between the molecular components in food and the human perception of taste, texture, smell, and color. When you do that, the algorithm is not crazy for him to think that the interaction between pineapple juice and cabbage concentrate generates lactones, and that lactones are present in milk, and that's what's making not milk taste like milk, which is a plant-based milk that tastes like milk. So that's kind of like the aha moment, right? Is where AI is bringing innovation that a human being couldn't actually understand before.
Yeah, so huge knowledge drop there, how Giuseppe's taking this unbiased approach really to find the best solution rather than coming to it with these biases, of course. And then we are going to get to Mike and Ingredion in just 1 second, and then we're going to merge the two. But when we were at the Future Food Tech Conference, someone said, and I haven't been able to find the statistic anywhere, that NotCo, which began in Chile, the country of Chile, has taken over 5% of the Chilean meat market. Is that accurate?
Not the meat, but the burger, right? So the burger.
Thank you, of the burger market.
Yeah. So we got in 11 months of sales, we got 5% of the total burger market in Chile, where we actually started the company. That's where we launched the burger first. And it's pretty remarkable. I mean, I think there's another curious data that is very, very interesting to look at is before NotCo launching NotBurger, the meat replacement market weighed 4% of the total market, right? And we, by ourselves, created 5% in 11 months, right? So now it's closer to 10, than 5, and 5 was added by a new product coming from our company. So NotCo has always had this mission of moving the needle. We always say we're not going to be happy if we don't move the needle. If we're doing a great tasting plant-based burger just for plant-based consumers, then we're kind of like missing, kind of like what we want to do, which is move the needle. It's making people that maybe ate burgers or are wanting to kind of like become flexitarians or eat less meat or have a chance to really have a really tasty burger and for that burger to come from plants. That's where we win, right? As an 100%. Industry, as a company. So, yeah.
Well, so this is a great segue to bring in Mike and talk about ingredients. So, Matias, you're talking about moving the needle, and it's very interesting to me that you've chosen to be cross-category because, of course, once you have Giuseppe, you can put him on anything. You can put him on sausages or milk or dairy or cheese or yogurt or hamburgers. It really doesn't matter. But to be able to take on that kind of breadth of products and to move so quickly such that you can actually double the market impact, you need help. You can't do it alone, and you can't slow yourself up with lots of investment, your own plants, all of these kinds of things. So before we delve into how Ingredion has helped you, Mike, maybe you can take us back a step and give us the overview on Ingredion. Most people know Ingredion, an ingredient company, 115 years old, around the globe, lots of people, lots of departments, nimble maybe isn't the first word I would think of, but I would think of, resources and distribution channels that they can help their clients with, and just a vast array of resources really to pull from. But you have recently set your sights on the global plant-based protein market. Tell me about that shift for Ingredion.
Yeah, and thanks, Elysabeth. It's inspiring to hear Matias on his journey. I think for us, the shift is something really fundamental, and I think that's where a NotCo and Ingredion really the synergies that we find with each other really comes back to purpose. And I actually kind of it's kind of cool. I sit, and behind me here I have my purpose, and then we have the NotCo milk here that has Matias's purpose on the side there. And when you look at the two, and I'll just kind of read you ours. We bring the potential of people, nature, and technology together to create ingredient solutions that make life better, right? So we heard from Matias, the technology part of what Guiseppe is doing, and we heard the nature, right? So discovering nature and looking at how pineapple can create, sour and lactose notes. I think that's something that we're going to continue to discover that as we find great data points, and that's really what I would say we're seeing in the shift, not just from a NotCo perspective, but in general, this big data perspective that has to be mined, that will continue to be mined, and I think will challenge all of us in all sectors to create new and innovative products. For us, the shift on making life better is fundamental to our purpose, and having partners and really great companies to work with like NotCo that align on that purpose really sets the bar for what we can do. So, our journey, you'd mentioned our history, which is quite in depth, many, over a century old. The last 5 years, we've really been looking at our purpose and how do we make life better? What does that? What meets that shift for the consumer? And, really our CEO and executive leadership team and our company recognized that this movement of plant-based protein was going to be one that was going to have fundamental changes for the consumer, from sustainability to animal wellness and planet. And we just felt that really it aligned very well with our purpose, and fundamentally is the future for food. And so we're very excited to be on that journey. As you know, Elysabeth, you've participated with our event in March. That was our grand opening for our South Sioux City facility, which is just an incredible facility. We harnessed nature and technology at its best. The facility is really pretty much virtually operational, so we can operate that virtually. More or less, we have 4 individuals that can walk around with an iPad and make sure that all of the processes are operating at a very high level. And at the end of the process, we feel that we have the best pea protein isolate in market, the cleanest tasting. So, we're leveraging technology based off of what nature has to offer, and ultimately we have people at the center of that. And so, I think it gives us a very good future of where we're going in plant-based protein. Being partnered with companies like NotCo and Matias inspires us to continue to evolve and challenge us to continue to evolve. And to grow 5 percentage shares in a market is absolutely just out of this world. And so we, as a company that has historically been a part of the food chain and the food process, have to look at how do we change and adapt so that we can ultimately deliver based off of the work that NotCo is doing. And so it has us challenged as well, and how we can adapt, get better, and deliver results for them and future opportunities as well. So it's definitely a business platform driven off of purpose, our purpose. And I think it aligns very well with companies like NotCo and the mission they have, and really the information that they're leveraging that's for a consumer that's shifting for sure.
So I really should have entitled this conversation a love fest, because the two of you are really kind of meeting in the middle here. So we have the opposites, NotCo obviously being so much smaller than Ingredion and different stage of life and their life cycle of businesses, but you're both meeting on purpose, which isn't always how business partners come together. In the yesteryear days of doing business, you had a supplier like Ingredion, they shipped you the product, and then the company was going to do with it what they will. And that was sort of the end of the relationship, give or take. Gross overstatement. But to see a company like Ingredion, because I do work with Ingredion from time to time, to see this sort of, I won't say childlike, but this youthful re-energy come into the company that is so excited about its new protein platform and being such an instrumental player in the market as you are now in the shifting food supply system. It's just kind of joyous to see how giddy people are getting at Ingredion about this exciting platform. Okay, so the two of you come together. You realize that you are better together than apart. And I'm wondering, how has this partnership that you have together of being more than just a supplier, maybe it would help to define what your relationship is now and how it has helped you compete in the marketplace. I'll let Matias take that.
Okay. I want to make sure that I sometimes get a little bit of you, Elysabeth, cutting out, but I don't know, Mike, if you're getting the same. Yeah.
It's okay for right now. I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's only me, so I'll try to grab that question in the sense that I think this is a space where everyone is exploring. Everyone is becoming a startup, right? The big companies have to become a startup. We are a startup, so we kind of like rely on each other to build something that wasn't built before. So we improvise, we fail, and we get up and we do things. And we repeat that all the time. We like to, try new stuff. Sometimes companies are better off at doing that, and Ingredion has been one of them. It's crazy to think about a company's, with such a history of 115. What is it, Mike? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but years old, and they still have this flexibility of adapting to consumers that are new, that might be considered as sometimes crazy, and that are willing also to fail with you. And this kind of like new mindset that maybe the startups are bringing to the older companies, more experienced companies, bigger companies. They're becoming from a mammoth that worked really slow into honey badgers that are going around and kind of like getting into the ground with us, right? And so we need more in the space, because they're as important as we are, right? If we don't have the ingredient, we cannot produce the food that we want to. If we don't have the capabilities of testing the product, in an industrial scale, the product is going to be far away and probably with high risk put into a shelf of a supermarket and then maybe fail. Like, they reduce the risk or they de-risk, the creation of a new product. And I think from the get-go, when we came to their offices, probably in Brazil with Ingredion, we started off with an amazing relationship that only has grown in time. And they source us in Brazil, in Argentina, in Chile, in the US, and everywhere we can go, they're gonna be there. So relying on a global supplier that has this flexibility, this level of support, this level of engagement with someone like us, who definitely, they're not bringing the biggest business to the company, they're bringing the biggest challenges to the company. It's a mindset that Ingredion has played really well. So I think, and I kind of like double click on that.
Yeah, I love what you say, that really Ingredion has helped you fail forward, if you will, so that you're not going to bear those costly mistakes that all startups have to make, right? That's part of the process of creating and fine-tuning that product. And so someone like Ingredion can partner with you and help you make those mistakes internally with them, with their bigger facilities, et cetera, such that when you get to market, you're a lot stronger, and you've seen the proof of that in your products. Mike, I can see where NotCo would really benefit from this sort of big brother there to help in so many ways. Again, the resources and the factories and the staffing. But what was Ingredion thinking when they said, okay, let's get down in the trenches with startups like NotCo?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Matias gave some great background and history, of where we started with NotCo in Brazil, and them coming into our labs in Brazil, and our team really seeing that they were able to, and early on, Matias, and please, kind of add to this if you'd like, but early on, it was very clearly the roles of the Giuseppe information and AI that NotCo could leverage based off of our ability to with our lab, our idea labs, be able to create those formulations and be able to put that together. And I think that kind of working together in that performance-driven environment really helped leverage both sides. And I think that they proved to Ingredion, they proved to us, wow, this is really revolutionary, that what they're able to do here. And on the flip side, I think we were able to help very much the NotCo team get, through the ideations that they needed to, and the testing they needed to get to their end target, and be able to do that at a certain amount of speed. And so that then scenario and model, we have to look at as NotCo is expanding into other regions and expanding incredibly fast. How do we replicate that model, and how do we ensure that DNA, what happened in South America, can be brought through to North America, Europe, Asia, wherever they're going to go next? And so that's really again, I think it's is as large as Ingredion can be, and the 32 global idea labs that we have everywhere. We have to look at how do we take this let's say that DNA, that model, and help a NotCo expand, and it's performance driven. I mean, no doubt, if Matias and his team aren't winning, then we're losing, and vice versa. If we're not performing, then Matias's team is not winning in market. And so we recognize that we ultimately have to deliver to their team and be able to leverage the resources that we have in order to have these types of phenomenal growth opportunities, because it's happening. There is shift in market, and there is gap openings that we've not ever seen prior. But if you want to go, obviously captivate that growth, you're going to have to move fast. And this isn't, okay, we'll get to market in 18 months. How we get to market in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks? And that's something, you're talking about a food system, going back to the growers, to the processors, to the end value producers like a CPG like NotCo, that whole chain and the supply chain in between there, to be able to do that and get to market fast, that's definitely revolutionary. And so it is challenging, this technology that NotCo harnesses. It is challenging that whole system and being able to pull that through.
Mm-hmm. I love what you say, because really Ingredion lets NotCo take flight, because having all the resources that you have, you can give a company or like NotCo wings, and they can get to market quickly with the right product, and then take over all of Latin America and go on from there. And that really is how this has been working out. Are you seeing that because the landscape of plant-based foods in general, as we are undergoing a shift of the global food supply system, and so people have to get to market quickly, are you seeing your competitors on both sides, for NotCo and Ingredion, try to mimic the same sort of relationship out there? What is the ecosystem like there right now between suppliers and startups?
I think I would just add, I would just say to that, I think it's highly competitive, specifically on the ecosystem perspective. You're talking about ecosystems and incubators that have popped up over the last few years in many cities, mm-hmm. and people are looking at the co-creation cycle and how do you get to market even faster. And this is going on at the multinational CPG level as well. They're realizing, how do we get to market faster? We can't get to market in perfection type of status. We have to get to market and get that information back. And so it challenges what historically was kind of done, and it challenges not just just the aspect of the supply chain, but it challenges the regulatory. It challenges the quality. It challenges the pricing. All of these aspects that historically had, some process to be able to do that. Now it's really expected at a much more, micro focused, speed. So, I think that in order to be relevant with NotCo, we have to be performance driven, and that. I think that hopefully would, Matias, make sure that we're driving too very, very strong. So we're that's a big part of our our responsibility. And I think that we're very, very fortunate to continue to work with Matias and his team. So, yeah.
I'll just add to that and say the speed at which things are changing is forcing the supply chain to shift. It's also forcing investment to shift. So previously, the old investment model would be you might try to buy up a company like NotCo. But now companies are saying, first of all, NotCo, the valuation's pretty high, so high that you really have to go to IPO. We'll talk about that in a second. So they're opting not to spend those kind of dollars and put, let's say, negative EBITDA on the books, but rather partner and come in as a smaller player and not gobble up the startup, but learn from them because they don't know this area too well either. So you're seeing lots of meat and dairy companies choose to partner rather than to buy up. I'm wondering, Matias, if you can comment on what Mike was saying in terms of working together. I'm wondering, what is it that you have learned from working with Ingredion?
Well, many things, right? First is the surprise of working with a company, with a big company, and they behaving as a startup. So generally, like that construct in an entrepreneur is like counterintuitive, right? Because you wouldn't expect that, and you either become a blockbuster or a Netflix here. So. Definitely those steps that Ingredion has taken is definitely to a Netflix and not to keep themselves as a blockbuster. In terms of competition, we really don't look at them, what they're doing. I think that's where companies start fading because they're trying to, kind of like anticipate what the others are doing in order to do it. When you're looking at your company, or your competitor, what they're doing, you're always become a set mover. They're moving first. So you have to, you have to be consistent to the mission of the company. You have to be consistent on the ways of working that you have established as a company too. Different companies have different cultures, and the way we move are different from another. So, I think we're all in a kind of like aiming at the same direction. We're doing things different in the way we believe things should be done. Our partnership with Ingredion has been replicated with other companies as well. It's not that, some are better than others. I think the case that is portrayed here between Ingredion and NotCo is one success case, and very successful. And there's others that work as well. More than anything else is the surprise of. Still talking to each other is one of their surprises because, listen, it's NotCo. It's a fast pace. It's different categories. It's different ingredients. Different countries. I mean, it's hard to actually be well in all of those areas. So, it's lead times. It's different co-manufacturers. We operate in 20 commands in the world, right? Supply chain is an issue, right? Then supply chain is difficult. And so you need to build relationships in order to maintain together, from 2017 to now. So yeah, a lot of learnings, but at the same time saying, it's amazing that we're here today, talking to each other after so many things that we've gone together.
It's a marriage for sure. It really is that kind of relationship. And I love what you say. We're going to talk about tips for startups in a bit, but I love what you say, that focus on your vision and your purpose and don't get sidetracked by what your competitors are doing. Otherwise, you'll waste that energy, that valuable energy, because I'm sure there are days where you've worked 20 out of 24 hours, if not more. There are these long days of an entrepreneur. There's no way around it. And if you start focusing your energies and even that sort of inherent jealousy that that humanity naturally has, you really waste some vital energy that can't be wasted. Okay, so we're talking about how beneficial the relationship is for both of your companies, and it seems like both of you personally, you're enjoying it. But I'm wondering, how does this shake out for the consumer? Mike, maybe you can take this question. What is it like for the consumer? How do they benefit from this relationship ultimately in the end?
Yeah. Elysabeth, I think that no doubt it's highly beneficial for the consumer because, I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier on today, but you have 10 years ago, the industry really kind of presenting to the consumer what the menu was going to be and what they were going to eat for breakfast or what they were going to have for lunch or what this was going to be on the supermarket shelves. And when you have this type of technology that NotCo with Guiseppe is able to harness and look at not just ingredients and how they can be put together, but then the consumer side, what the consumer is looking for, and bringing that back in a very fast methodology to be able to get new versions and ideations out to consumer. They benefit because ultimately the consumer is now fundamentally looking at this shift and saying, hey, you know what, maybe I do want a product that's more sustainable. Maybe I do want a product that specifically is better for the planet, and looking at a legacy purchase. So if I purchase this today, will this be better for my kids? Which probably didn't have that kind of approach 10 years ago. And so making those purchases based off of that legacy, and you have that ability to produce a product that ultimately is the same or better than what is currently on the shelf, or let's say the historical product. The consumer says, I don't have any problems, I don't have any problems buying this, but they're becoming accustomed to it, and they're asking for other categories, and they're asking for other products to be that alternative substitute. And so, I think that the way I look at it is it's a shift where the consumer has so much control and so much voice with their purchase. Whereas I really see 10 years ago, that voice was really, okay, the product tastes good, the price was there, and that was kind of that driver. Mm-hmm. Today, it's really, hey, I want the taste, I want the price, but I really want the legacy too. I want these products to actually be generationally good for myself, for my kids, for the planet. And so I think that's where the consumer is really having that fundamental shift. And ultimately, I think it is a win-win for them, because they have so much power when they go to that supermarket, or they're purchasing online, or they're going to the restaurant, and they're saying, oh, you don't have a plant-based offering, you don't have a plant-based hot dog or hamburger or alternative, dairy milk. Why not? And so that's different. And so that's leading to new categories, and those new categories are making a lot of historical brands look at what's next as well. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah. First of all, I'll say you have described me. I walk into the restaurant and I say, why don't you have that plant-based hot dog? That's me 100%. I would even go one step further and say that the consumer is not only powerful, but they are driving change, and they will accept nothing less than they want price. They want good for the environment. They want good for their health. They want clean label, and they want a company that stands for something. They're very much rooting for the David of the David and Goliath story. They want to know that this company, not only the products that they make, but the vision of the entire company is in line with their values. And they're really looking into companies from that perspective for themselves and for their kids, as you say. Matias, I want to ask you, since we're talking about all these benefits for the consumer, and I do believe there are so many, like, for example, I don't think that change would be happening as quickly if there weren't partnerships like this between you and Ingredion, because Ingredion has allowed you to not be asset heavy, to not have to invest in your own plants, but use Ingredion's plants and get to market faster. All these wonderful benefits for you, NotCo, as a company, and also for the consumer. So as you give tips to other small businesses, I'm wondering if you can share what you would tell them from your journey of the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I always say this caveat before I give advice. The things that work for me might not work for others. So, everyone has their own way of doing things and their whole strategy, and they have different ways of approaching the same problem and offering different solutions. But in my case, I mean, what has been very successful is not only having and relying on partners that are, as I said, on sickness and health. This is a marriage, right? It's a long run. So you need to trust who you have, at your side. And one of the things that is most important, and it's maybe cheesy to say, but it's trust. If you don't trust someone else, if you don't share the formulations, if you don't allow them to look inside your company to understand what's the necessity or the need, then you spend too much time distrusting each other, and that kind of like ruins value, right? These guys are guys who have worked with the biggest companies out there, with the most well-kept secrets. So, one of the things for us is, open up. That's where value is created. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time distrusting each other and, getting a lot of problems in communication. And trust is one of the things that we have, kind of like based our ways of working with partners. And that has worked very, very well. So that's a non kind of like, it's not common. There's a lot of jealous company. I'm very like, oh, we're going to protect this because otherwise it's going to be like, no. The value of an idea is created in the execution. It's not created in the idea. The ideas are worth zero. So if you don't execute that, if you don't have the right partner, if you don't have the command, if you don't have the ingredient, if you don't have the people, there's no way. I mean, that idea it's worth zero. So yeah, rely on partners, trust them, and be very mindful that time is one of the biggest assets in this competition, and be mindful of that. That would be my advice.
Yes, I love what you say. Really focusing on being light in so many ways. We talked about that you're asset light, so not investing in big factories and plants, but you're mentally light, if I can say that. You're not carrying that baggage of check on my competition or the jealousy or let's protect. You're remaining very sort of in flight again, that vision of you having wings with the help of Ingredion. It's very powerful to me because you have been able to move with such speed and such creativity. You just can't do that if you're going to bog yourself down mentally. Mike, I'm wondering if you can riff off of this and share what tips you might have for entrepreneurs and startups now that you've been working with NotCo and other companies like it.
I mean, I think Matias said it best. I think his advice is spot on. I think the only thing I would just add is I think Matias is being very modest and humble. The idea of what him and his team came up with is pretty unique. And, I think that having unique ideas, looking at a business model or a model like they've looked at it from a different angle is very important. But no doubt, it's let's just call it 50% of the equation. If you can't go execute on it, then it doesn't matter. And I think that's where Matias was spot on. Having the right partners on your execution is absolutely critical, and that's where an Ingredion really can help. We can help from that perspective of what historically, how the market, it kind of gets to market, the regulatory, the quality levels, all these aspects. I think there's some really good things that inherently we can deliver. And so my point is that for the startups that are out there that are listening to this or just looking at their execution model, I'm very happy to put our hand up and say, let us know at Ingredion, send me a note on LinkedIn or send us a note. For us, I really do appreciate the commentary from Matias. We pride ourselves at looking at being a startup inside of a multinational and how we can help companies get to that next level, because these ideas that many startups are having are very fundamentally outstanding and going to change the industry. But the execution part is where there needs to be a lot of help. And it's not just Ingredion. There's an ecosystem there, whether it's packaging, whether it's regulatory, it's supply, and then the whole retail part of that, or what's the distribution. So it's not an easy feeding the world is definitely not an easy let's say equation, but I think the execution part is where people get really hung up, and it's not that easy. But we're a company that definitely wants to help and make life better, and we see a tremendous amount of value in that startup and the idea generation from it.
Well, I think we're going to have to do a part 2 of this conversation because I know that Matias has a hard out, so he's going to have to duck quickly. So I'm just going to be able to ask one more question, and then unfortunately we're going to have to go. But I want to bring you guys back in maybe 6 to 8 months and see where you are again because things change so quickly. So talking about change, we're getting to predictions. Matias, if you can tell us, usually I ask predictions for like 3 years out for the general marketplace, but I want to know specifically about NotCo. When are you going to IPO, and what do you see in the future for NotCo in the next 2 years?
Well, I think we're not prepared for an IPO yet, as much as we really want and to see the end game. Maybe not the end game, but the North Star of NotCo as a startup doing their IPO. I think it's way too soon. Because there's more to the IPO than just kind of like the glamour or the press or just like an entrepreneur kind of like objective is to IPO. I mean, it's there. I mean, believe me, it's one of my dreams, of course, right? But my to get to that dream, I need to fulfill other dreams too, right? So still there is, probably between the IPO and today, there's going to be a new round. Yeah, there's going to be another round. I mean, we're not able to get to the IPO before we do a round. There's, we don't have the team, the numbers, the size, even the attention to generate all of that, kind of like bureaucracy to attend an IPO company. You need to understand
a heavy lift.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's so much reporting. And the value for NotCo today is not reporting. It's making new products. It's investing in technologies, it's doing better AI. It's understanding the portfolio. What's the next step? What's the geography? There's many other things that we are focusing on our attention. But yes, there's another round coming in, and we will be enjoying that moment. So step by step, the big step, of course, of NotCo is an IPO. Not yet, probably 2023, 2024. I think it's going to be a good time.
Okay, and when are you going to be in the U.S. beyond milk? When are you going to be? Right now, I believe it's only milk that is in the United States. When will we have the other products in the United States?
Oh, Elysabeth, I can't hear you. I don't know why, because I know that this platform has problems. Now I can hear you.
Oh,
what was the question?
When are other products coming to the U.S.? Right now we have milk. When will we get the rest?
I don't want to spoil surprises, but things are coming. So I don't want to spoil surprises. I just want to be mindful of that too, and allow at the right time for people to understand what's the product, where is launching, who is launching it, and so we're gonna keep it that way.
Okay, well, we will stay tuned on that. Mike, you get the last words on the way out. Tell us, what are your predictions for the general landscape, let's say, in the next 2 to 3 years?
The next 2 to 3 years, it's an exciting time. I think we're going to continue to see the CAGR on plant-based protein continue to erupt, upwards of over, 15% over the next at least 5 years, if not more. I think we're going to see the conversion rate from flexitarians and vegetarians and vegans probably 3 times what it was over the last 30 years. So, and that's going to be really driven off of the basis that you have products in market that from a taste, price, nutritional perspective are at parity or better than their animal counterparts. So, I think that you get to a critical mass where kids these days, look at these products and go sustainable. And, even like my daughter, not animal, 7 years old, recognizes that she doesn't want to eat animal and looking at that different. And so I think that it gets to that tipping point where, flexitarians go, hey, it tastes the same. I really don't mind eating maybe 3 or 4 times a week in this way. And that really drives just a shift in consumption. And so I fundamentally think the next 3 years, we're going to see things in the food industry that we've not seen in 50. I think since really, going back, really 50 years here where food was really put at an industrial stage. I think we're going to see a lot of change in that sense. And it's going to be driven off of technology from a AI perspective, but also from a developmental perspective as well, and from a chemistry perspective. So we see so much going on with microbial and fermentation. All of this is going to be critical drivers as we go forward. So the future is so exciting. It's so fast. I think that we all have to have that startup mentality if we want to continue to evolve to the Netflix as opposed to being the blockbuster, as Matias puts it. So, and I know, Elysabeth, you normally ask the question, your favorite snack. And
yes, that was my next. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, for me, I'm a foodie, so I love all kinds of food, but I really love food that is products that we have the pleasure to work on and work with. So Matias, felicidades. Thank you so much for doing this with us here. And outstanding.
Delicious.
Yeah, delicious. As you said, super delicious. It's outstanding. So thank you for the time, Elysabeth. And my favorite snacks are snacks that we work on, and we work on with great partners. So
it's wonderful. Thank you both for being here today. Matias, would you like to tell us your snack on the way out? Your favorite snack?
This is my office snack. I always actually drink this. It's a very Latin American thing. It's mate.
Mate.
Yeah, it's mate, and I take it every morning. So.
And I love the mate straw.
Definitely not my people are laughing here. It's not my favorite snack, but it's a good one.
Well, I want to thank you both for all that you do. And of course, Mike, I'll say that your 7-year-old daughter is welcome on this show at any time. You are both changing the world. I say that not with any joke or sarcasm. You are truly moving the needle for people, the planet, and animals. I am so deeply grateful. If you can stick around for 2 seconds, everybody else on social media, I will see you next week. Matias and Mike, if you can hold on for 2 seconds, that would be great. Everybody, thanks for all you do.